Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. This is CST episode 396. Welcome to the show, guys. It's been one heck of a day, one heck of a week for FC Cincinnati. And just like FC Cincinnati, CST is trading hosting duties for this evening. This is your host, Brian Weigel, stepping into the seat last minute because my buddy next door to me on the screen, Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, fails to prepare, unlike Chris Albright, for the show. And we are very happy to have you guys all in. Of course, you might be distracted with the Bengals game on Monday night. You got all this sweet news about FC Cincinnati, but we're here to provide a little bit of joy into this offseason. So as I said, this is Brian Weigel here. I'm joined by a great cast of characters. I got Brian Biedenbach, Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, and the co-owner of CST, Justin Blair. So guys, let's welcome in everybody here. Justin, how you doing, big guy?
Doing good, man. I just got rushed home from the Cincinnati Zoo, taking in the holiday spirit.
Nice.
So made it here just in the nick of time.
We tried out the Kings Island Winterfest Friday night when it was a balmy 26 degrees. It's probably a little bit warmer than what you're used to up north in the northern territories of Indiana, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Friday night, we were down in Indianapolis for an outdoor soccer game. So we were playing, and my son was playing in 28-degree weather after sundown Friday night. So a little chilly with those guys running around.
Night game on turf?
On turf, yep.
Oh, my God, it just sounds brutal.
Oh, it was. Pulled out a 1-1 tie. My son got the assist off the corner, tie the game.
Nice.
So everything was all right after that. But it was cold.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely been heating up in the Cincinnati world right now. Boston, how you doing, my man? Is it weird sitting on the I guess the right side of the screen if you're watching live tonight?
Sure is, man. And I was a guest on a podcast earlier this week, so I'm getting used to the just being asked the questions and the easy life over here. So
who the heck thought it was a good idea to interview you this week?
Oh man,
I remember the name.
Some kind of crazy FCC fan.
Supporters. There you go.
I feel like Boston needs to change the direction that he's got his back to you right now.
Yeah,
like sliding me over
massive shade.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm glad to have all you guys on the show. We got a ton to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about off-season options being picked up, guys we might not see back here in Cincinnati again, guys we shipped off to the West Coast, and then some I guess Bavarian teams coming into the Queen City this summer. So got a ton to talk about. If you guys have if you're watching, if you have any questions, notes, please feel free to drop them in the comments section. Love to hear from you. Of course, I do want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Apollo Home. Temps have plummeted, and we have warned you all year long to keep things cozy with Apollo Home. Peace of mind is worth a $29 tune-up. Get our great sponsor on your schedule soon. Apollo Home. Visit apollohome.com. That was a very Ron Burgundy moment right there where Boston was typing the ad read into the box. If he would have typed in anything, I probably would have read it there. Props to San Diego. Gonna talk about them a lot, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, let's dive down in. We don't need no best and worsts. Let's just dive right in. We have so much to talk about. First, the offseason moves this past week. FC Cincinnati released their 2024-2025 options. Exercised options are former designated player Obina Wobodo, TAM center back Miles Robinson, and a shocker, I guess you could say, in forward Sergio Santos. Of course, the club also exercised the contract option for Alvaro Barreal. There's a lot more news about him coming up. Unfortunately, declined options were London Nagano, Jaya Panunu, Isaiah Foster, Kip Keller, Kimi Ordonez, Malik Pinto, and Yamil Assad. So, guys, of course, they're talking about bringing, potentially negotiating with Yamil Assad. Chris Albright and his general manager's end of season press conference mentioned that he was on a supplemental deal. His option would have put him on the senior roster. They're trying to get creative, bringing him back on the supplemental deal. But out of all those guys, I'll start with you, Brian. Which is the biggest surprise for you of either cutting or coming back to the orange and blue?
I think two big ones are surprise to me. Barreal, that Cruzeiro didn't hang on to him. They didn't exercise, or we exercised that contract option. I'd love to see him back on the field. I don't think that's going to happen. We'll talk later. But Sergio Santos was a big one for me, that they kept him, especially with the pickup of Kevin Denke. Malik Pinto, maybe a bit of a surprise, maybe not too much. He didn't get a whole lot of time last year, but needing depth in that midfield area. But yeah, I think Sergio Santos was the biggest one for me.
Yeah, I think I'm interested to see what was what might have happened there, whether we thought spending $1 million on a backup forward was a good idea or somehow some option triggered. Some information I forgot to mention is no Nico Giacchini, not a surprise there. No Kevin Kelsey. I think we mentioned that a couple weeks ago. So maybe that forced the hand. But Justin, Yamil Saad, you saw that wasn't there. Wouldn't you think that a guy like him having such a great season deserved, the roster bump to the senior roster and a heck of a raise?
Maybe.
Good answer.
Because all of that was contingent, in my opinion. Now, he played really well.
What was contingent about it? What's contingent?
Argentinian that has his eyes on Boca Juniors, in my opinion. So, I mean, I think that was what they brought Yamil Asad in on, right? I think it was kind of rumored that it was heavily lobbied by FC, by Lucho himself to bring in a guy like Yamil Asad. Their connection was undoubted. They were harassed teams in the left box, in our view. But for me, it feels like, he brought it off to the team during Leagues Cup when it wasn't so Lucho heavy featured. He really connected really well with Sergio Santos. So I felt like that would be kind of a no-brainer, but I think that it's a kind way of saying that they're holding out for Lucho Acosta. They need to know where the money's at and then see if, this is a piece that's going to fit in our system going forward. But yeah, I mean, the production's there. But for me, the biggest surprise out of it is Kip Keller. I mean, Kip Keller is one of those players that this group identified during the super draft as their guy, their target. They ended up getting Ian Murphy as kind of, Austin FC slid in there and grabbed Kip Keller first. They bring Kip Keller in, last season, in the off season, and now he's right back out the door again. So something must have been a real big miss on that. I know his play wasn't particularly impressive, but I mean, let's be honest. I don't think any center back in the system was handed a fair share role. So I just don't understand that move to me.
Boston, now they mentioned that Alvaro Barreal, his option was picked up. Looks like that's more maybe for control.
Some business.
The Cruzeiro, the club that had him on loan today, came out and basically said his purchase option was declined. Thank you for your service. Get out the door. He changed his Twitter handle to Jugador for FC Cincinnati. He coming back?
I mean, I'd love to see it, but rumor has it his wife didn't exactly enjoy her time here, and I don't think he's dying to come back and play for the Acosta-less orange and blue. So
what is this whole myth of people don't want to come back because of Lucho Acosta? You saying this, Justin saying this? We have men here. It's not about playing with their friends, guys.
Yeah, but I mean, you even heard Albright say it. He said there's a chance. Obviously, there's a chance Barreal ends up with us. If financially there's no place to send him, then he'll be back, I think, because he's committed and that's what his contract says. But Barreal would rather, in my opinion, Barreal would rather play elsewhere. He feels like he did his time in Major League Soccer, or at least with FC Cincinnati. So he's worth some cash. He's worth some cash, and FC Cincinnati needed to find a team that will splash at least $1 million on him.
I think what you're hinting to is FC Cincinnati needs his GAM conversion for for building out the roster, and that's absolutely
Well,
possible.
Do they? I mean, they need some kind of. I'm with you. I think they need some kind of game conversion. I really don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Costa Barrial or Shano. Somebody, somebody stays, somebody goes. Kind of like our center back situation.
I'll keep Orishano. That's a kid I want to build around.
Yeah, I don't think Barrial and Orshano keeping or letting one go is mutually exclusive anymore. We talked about, we'll talk about the game conversion and everything, but
speaking of Emil Assad, really quick, did you guys see he was down in Argentina hanging out with Lucho this week?
No.
If you would listen to the show
I'd
2 weeks ago,
believe
I
it.
told you he was on vacation.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, he was playing a pickup game with Acosta in Argentina. So their fates, that'd be interesting to see if their fates end up intertwined at all, or if FCC does bring him one back and not the other. Be kind of cool.
Yeah. I'd love to see Barrial and Orishano on the pitch together. I think, whether we got to make some moves quick if we're going to sell Barrial, right? And my understanding is his play in Brazil was not, he didn't get a lot of time, wasn't scoring a lot of goals. He may need some time to get his stock back up. So I'd love to see him for, the first half of the season or so with Orishano out on the pitch, whether or not Lucho's out there. The trio would be phenomenal. Don't know that we can afford that for even half a season, but that would be phenomenal.
Do you think? I've always thought that way too, Brian. Like players have this stock, it goes up and down depending on what their performance is. But then we've had players come here, and especially in the forward position, and then we're still able to pass them on like a Brenner for like good, decent chunks of money. And it always surprises me because it's like if you didn't, they didn't have like world beating performances here, I would feel like their stock fell. But sometimes you pay like $8 million for a guy and somehow he's still worth $7 million, $8 million when he leaves.
I think there's something to be said with Alvaro though. 2,000 minutes in primarily a winger role at Cruzeiro, 2 goals. And how many goals did he have last year as a left wing back? I think there's some debate there, or maybe some come to Jesus moment with Alvaro Barrial with, hey, what's my real position? Where's my value? I was fringe Argentinian national team. They were scouting me a year ago out of that left wing back role. Can you, kind of to Boston's point, can you recapture the magic? I'd love to see it here with FC Cincinnati. Now, with that being said, purchased Luca Orishano this past week for $3 million. I think that's a steal. You take that every day of the week. Chris Albright said his role looks to be more up the pitch. We'll discuss this later too. In that press conference, Albright was talking about the formation. Are we going to do 3 in the back? What's the biggest change is going to look like without Lucho, with Kevin Denke? And his reply was, yeah, probably 3 in the back and either 2 10s and 1 forward or 2 forwards and 1 10. I don't know how much of that's Lucho specific, but I definitely think there's absolutely a role there for Luca. And you never know, I guess, with Alvaro spot starting, I just don't see him being a up the field kind of guy like Luca. Am I wrong there, guys?
No, I think we saw him. We've talked about this before. We saw him at the 10 in that forward attacking midfield position, and he did okay. Barrial, filling in for Lucho a few seasons ago. I don't know that that's his position. I think on the wing, he's better. I think he played well again. His partnership with Lucho. You talk about harassing teams on the left side of the pitch, Justin, with Emil Assad. It was even more so with Barrial. I don't think he liked playing the wing back position. It was the defensive position that I don't think he loved. But I think seeing him out on the side, moving further up the pitch would be phenomenal. Now we do play, you talk about formation, we do play that wing back. Are we going to change that? I don't know. With the center back moves that we've made. So yeah, I don't know that he's a middle of the field kind of player, in my opinion, Barrial.
Well, I certainly think that Chris Albright's going to have some options. We had to make some space. As I mentioned 2 weeks ago, our roster situation was kind of dire. Several million in allocate or over the cap. Short on allocation money, and one of the ways to remedy that situation was to sell players, or kind of what we just had today, trading players. It was announced during today's or Monday's half-day MLS trade window that FC Cincinnati would be moving newcomer center back Chidozie Awaziem and former draft pick, left center back Ian Murphy as a package deal for $1 million in GAM to Colorado. I think there was a lot of angst, a lot of anger in camp. But let's be real, Justin. You had 4 center backs making $1 million, roughly $1 million. You had, Miles and Matt making about $1.5 million, 1.6. You had Chidozie 1.2 plus however you put his transfer fee in there. So he was, almost a TAM level guy. And something had to move. So what are you upset, happy? What's your initial reaction when you saw that Chido and then Ian were a package deal?
It didn't really bother me too bad. I mean, we're coming into a big winter window, so we really don't know what we have. We've talked about it earlier in the show as far as lots of positions on the field. One thing you do feel solid about is center back. So if you can cash that in for some GAM, I mean, Chido, was he brilliant at long ball passes? Yes. Was he a vocal leader in the back when there wasn't one? Yes. But let's be honest, Chido, I'm not trying to disrespect him in his game or what conversations were going on at FC Cincinnati, but he was a Band-Aid. I mean, that just call it what it is. I mean, you had Matt Miazga go down, Nick Hagelin go down. I mean, you're literally changing course mid-season, right before the summer window, to bring in center back to kind of relieve that position. So I'm not terribly surprised that a center back left. I thought maybe Chido had done enough to kind of, there are other players on this roster that maybe make it a little bit more that you could have cut or found a home for. But I wonder, like, does Chris Albright have like Colorado's GM on like speed dial? Like,
right.
I mean, this is just nonstop.
It's like the fourth trade to Colorado in the last few years. I was surprised.
Third center back. Gus Vicia was traded there at one point.
Yeah, I was surprised by the outrage / love for Chido. I didn't realize fans took to him as much as they had. I do think he's a solid player. I think FC Cincinnati was a playoff caliber team that needed a playoff caliber Band-Aid, using Justin's word. And so they went out and they spent some money on this guy. But we all knew because of that, you bring in Teenage and Awaziem to be essentially Band-Aids that year. Well, what happens when those guys come back? And that's what happened. We get both of our injured center backs back. Ideally, they said they're going to keep Hagelin some way, somehow. So you got both of them coming back. I think I make the same decision Albright is here. I take the proven talent, the guys that are getting, U.S. men's national team looks, the ones that I don't know if we ever did find a true like for like replacement for Miazga after he went down. And he's just such a rock back there that you have to keep him. I don't see anyone arguing that. But Miles Robinson with Miazga is still a killer pairing, an absolute killer pairing. And you let these guys go for $1 million that we can use anyway, anyhow. Allocation money is magic money, man. You can do a lot with it.
Yeah, Brian, I think I wrote a story this past week that basically said, like, I thought for sure it was going to be Miles traded. Of course, we talked about the funny money with San Diego, but there was supposed to be an international market for him too. What was your thoughts on the Chido and not Miles being the big moving piece?
Yeah, I would have thought they would have kept Chido, and to me, in my mind, it was Miles or Hadebe that were gonna leave. Murphy was a shock.
That's been a big thing lately. Is Hadebe? Everybody's been pushing that Hadebe thing. Why?
Why keep him, or why?
Why were we so the FC Cincinnati fan base is so ready to part ways with this guy?
I just don't think we've seen him enough. I mean, that was my take. We've seen Awaziem play. We've seen him step in as that Band-Aid, but as that vocal leader that we needed. We've seen Hidabi in just a handful of matches. To me, I haven't seen enough of him. He may be a great player. He's 29 years old, I believe.
Like that, yeah.
I don't think it's that hot take that Albright didn't care which one. It's just whoever got the best offer. That's the one leaving.
Yeah, maybe. I think we got more money out of Awaziem than we would have Hidabi potentially.
I think they both were shopped. Awaziem got the bigger price, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on how much of that allocation money was for Ian Murphy. Young, left-footed center back, fringe national team. Now he wasn't there this past year for sure, but
I am sleeping on that. I think it's like a 700, 300K split.
That's still respectful, I think.
But back to your question about Miles, because of the interest internationally, because of his interest internationally, I don't, in my mind, I know people are really high on Robinson. I don't know. I think he underperformed what we expected of him last year. Now he didn't have Miazga half the season paired with him, but I just didn't see out of Miles Robinson what I expected to see last year. And so with his interest on the, he had that 1-year contract and option to pick up for another season, I thought they would have shopped him a little bit more. Maybe they did.
I don't know, man. The thing I think with you, when you look at Miles and this guy per 90 minutes, he's towards the top of the league in tackles, kind of the middle of the group of interceptions. But you look at Chido, and while he was great offensively, defensively, he did not light the world on fire. I think when you look at Miles, you look at a guy who spent time at all three of those center back positions. He never had the chance to lock one down because he started the year on the left. He had a revolving cast over there. He moved to the right. Then later on the year, because of Awaziem's inability to really command that back line, Miles went from the right center back to the center back in the back three. I think that showed a lot of value. I think people are kind of sleeping on that.
I agree. And I think as I look at Awaziem, I do see him as more of that central back, like that center of the center back pieces, the way he was leading vocally, the way he was distributing balls out of the back. And so you can't replace, I mean, if it's him or Miazga, you're going to keep Miazga.
Well, hold on. Are you saying Chido?
I think Chido's,
even though he got moved out to the right.
Yeah, I do think his more natural position is that central back. Again, just the way he distributes the ball left and right, long balls. I think that's a more natural, better position for him, and he's not going to take that position over Miazga. So maybe that was the thinking there.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely part of the deal. I think I'm definitely sad that Ian Murphy's no longer going to be here. Guy on a very affordable cap hit, had done a lot of things the right way. But when you're looking at this group now, you have teenage Matt, Miles, hopefully a healthy Nick Hagland. You have maybe the ability for a DeAndre Edlin to step in, a Alvis Powell to step in. But are we improving the roster, Boston? Are we improving the roster by bringing a U22 center back in over over Ian Murphy? Do you think that's an overall improvement, being able to ship him out, getting allocation money, and then bringing in maybe a U22?
Yeah, I mean, they'll bring someone in on a U22 spot, hopefully, and the salary cap hit will be pretty light.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, filling in on one of those spots, and it won't take a senior roster spot or anything. That they clearly have some kind of plan, won't it? Why are you looking at me weird?
Well, it's a senior roster spot.
Is it? I thought U22 got to be its own. Okay, no. I guess I'm wrong about that. But overall, I still think it's a piece of good business to free up the rest of the team. You have to spend your money wisely, not just on your 11, but on those first three guys off the bench. And FC Cincinnati that's where they need to get better. They need to be able to have. It looks like they've got their starting striker. They've got to figure out what other combination they need up front. They still have to have a powerful midfield, and they need a good center back core, which we have the core. It's just getting the guy to come in at 60, 70 minutes that we maybe still need in a U22 spot.
Yeah. And I asked this question out of ignorance because I don't know a whole lot about FCC2, Justin. So I'll throw it to you on this one. Isn't there a young center back on FCC2 that they've had their eye on? I know a name has come up a couple times. Is there one that they're looking to bring up?
I mean, I don't know a lot. I mean, they took up Brian Schaefer in the Super Draft. He's performed well. He's had solid minutes with FCC2. So, I mean, he's one of those guys that they're building toward the future with. But as far as center backs,
well, they cut 2/3 of the team this week.
They did. which I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking whenever I saw all those players that got cut from the senior team or waived or
that's a team that won the Shield, so that's interesting.
Yeah, but that's like the year before. So like those are all pieces that were project work pieces that for one reason or another have just not
not gonna happen fast enough.
Kimi Ordonez, like that's one of them, right? We've seen enough of Kimi Ordonez. Like he's, he got loaned out. He's got minutes over there. It's never worked out. So it's kind of like they're completely restructuring that thing. And much like kind of mid-season this year, the FCC2 team like really put a lot of patchwork pieces together, but they were really good players. So that's why they performed so well at that level. I think now they're trying to build a little bit more of a core that's going to build up for the future because they really have really good pieces on FCC2. It's just some of the players were a little bit more veteran or, kind of fill in needs.
And you got to think with Albright and Noonan here and the way they built the academy in Philly that we will start seeing more guys come out of the academy and out of FCC2 to the senior roster. And so I just wonder, again, I don't know enough about FCC2 and who they cut, who they kept, and who's performing well, but I just got to believe we're going to see more guys coming up through there in the near future.
I'm going to counter that a little bit because I don't know if we're Philly. I don't know if we're the Philadelphia Union. I think we spend a little bit of too much money to be the Philadelphia Union. It seems like so far anyway, we're taking the approach of, okay, we need a piece. Let's go buy it. And so I agree with you. I think we need to get that development, but the fact that we had such a pretty decent team and yet we're not going to roll the dice on most of those guys, and Charleston Battery's got to be licking their chops because this worked out very well for them last year.
to pivot back a little bit, more or less Heart of Oaks players next year. I'm joking. All of a sudden,
I mean, there's just plenty of room at the other levels for these guys. So they're going to find those minutes now. It's better for their career, and FC Cincinnati can kind of test the waters with some younger talent.
Sure. So here's the thing. I think, Brian, to your point, you were asking about center back. I think you would have seen a little bit more movement on that this year, especially how we brought along Stefan Trilla. So I think you're more likely to see him more than you will another center back. That's why I keep saying, I think when you're looking at this roster build, I don't think a draft pick's going to do it. I think if they were cool with the draft picks, they would have kept one of those two guys, London or Joey. I think you're going to see a U22 coming in. And let's stop with this. U22 players need to be impact players. No, they need to be depth pieces that in time can then be a impact piece. You need to slow walk those guys forward. There's too many times where we were crappy and we had to throw these guys in there and they sank or swim, and most of them sank.
Like Barriel.
Yeah. No, he swam. I'm talking about Viacia and
but I still think we're going to see more academy guys come up. Boston, not yet, but you said we spent money, we bring in pieces here and there, and it's because we've needed to.
We've still
spent millions of dollars on forwards who haven't performed, and we're not going to bring, and we're still in the hunt. We're not going to bring up a player that hasn't proven himself to put him in that spot and see what he can do when we're in the hunt. We lost talent, we lost money when our center back started going down, and we're still in the hunt. You're not going to bring up a young player from SC.
So what I hear you saying is you hope we're
bad,
like bottom of the table next year so we can develop these guys.
No. I'm just saying if we get the right guys in place now, it gives us time to develop players at the academy level.
So I think I said this to you guys or messaged you. I ran into a player in the airport this past week who was a part of the Austin FC Academy that is now transitioning over to the FCC Academy. We're still trying to recruit players from the other team's academy. So I still think we are time. Yeah, but that's a stopgap measure.
Yeah.
But to Brian's point, I think we're still 5 years away from what he wants to do.
I can tell you one thing. Austin's a rather large city, okay? And they're not competing with all the markets that FC Cincinnati is. Let's just be honest. I mean, there's tons of developmental leagues around us that aren't FC Cincinnati. You have Columbus up the road, you have Pittsburgh, you have Lexington, you have Louisville, you have Indy, you have tons of different places that players can go for their academy.
Yeah, I don't want to make fun of you for saying that FC Cincinnati has to recruit against Lexington SC players. I would never do that. Never make
they're
fun of you
doing
for
it,
that.
dude. Commonwealth FC actually used to dominate.
Oh my God.
That. Well, we can go into that later, but Commonwealth FC used to dominate.
Oh, that's funny.
Did that branding get like delayed? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I think it's done. If you listen to Jeff's podcast this past week, Jeff Tabbitt's released a podcast with Carter Chapley. I think that is donezo.
Toast.
Go check that out.
All right. Stay in FCC too, I guess.
All right. Real quick. The one thing that I find just putting a bow back on this Cheeto thing, we can keep progressing with the roster build. I hate several things about Major League Soccer and the soccer in the United States. And one of those mechanisms is trading players. I think it's trash. I think in pretty much every league around the world, the player has to agree to these moves. And I pray to God that Cheeto signed off on this move, because the last thing I want is to FC Cincinnati have a black eye on the international market. We've already probably pissed off some teams by getting players on loan and not signing them. Now we're bringing in a high-profile center back, because I mean he's a pretty good center back for Major League Soccer. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then immediately trading him. This guy coming over from Boa Vista basically said, "I just needed some stability in my life. So excited to be in Cincinnati, and then peace and blessings to Denver." So don't have any background on that. Not inferring anything, not trying to piss off anybody, but I pray to God that Cheeto signed off on this deal, because it would just break my heart to know that, we'd be saying sayonara and this guy had no idea that was coming.
Maybe you like skiing, Brian.
Oh, God. Hey, I love that town. It's a great town, but my gosh. So just to throw that out there. So guys, now we're officially kind of in, building for 2025 mode. I think I explained this. We'll go through it really quickly. FC Cincinnati has two paths to build this roster. Chris Albright said he had not made a decision yet. One of those paths is the 3 DPs with 3 U22 players. The other path is two designated players up to 4 U22 players. And what I think is the most valuable is the extra $2 million in GAM. Of course, you have the ability to add extra GAM by selling players. We talked about Alvaro Barreal. Now you have Lucho Acosta. Just to let you guys know, there's been a lot of rules changes since 2023. You are now able to convert some sales for designated players into GAM. You have the ability to, at a reduced rate, U22 players. And then, heck, if we sell Barreal, you have the ability to convert, basically up to $3 million combined for those sales. So there's a lot of changes. Don't take everything we have as gospel here on this podcast. Things change. I mean, they changed the rules midseason this past year for Miami. With that being said, I think we have the ability. We are very, very tight still. If you go on our CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com roster tracker, I'm going to update that. We are very, very tight on our roster, but I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel. I still think when we're looking at this roster build, unless we can somehow go get a $3 million GAM conversion, I think it is very, very likely FC Cincinnati goes to that 2 DP, up to 4 U22s in that additional GAM model. And that allows us to try to keep Alvaro Barreal if we want to. It allows us to pay off Luca Orshano in increments versus, a lump sum in year one. But I think there is some flexibility with that. Of course, we're going to know a lot more about FC Cincinnati going forward, as this week we have the expansion draft, Major League Soccer expansion draft for San Diego. They have the ability to pick 5 players amongst the entire league, and each club within the league has the ability to protect 12 players, and that does not include any homegrowns or Generation Adidas players that are automatically protected. So I kind of wanted to dive into this real quick, guys, about what might be available for Wednesday for for San Diego. FC Cincinnati should be able to protect these 12 players. So let's go down the list of guys that are potentially available, and then maybe you guys can give us an idea about an interesting couple people that you would debate on protecting. So I think you have Lucho Acosta, auto protect, right, guys? Are we gonna farm him out?
All 4 of us agreed on that.
Okay.
No matter what happens with him, he's still more valuable.
Okay, so Lucho Acosta 1, Miles Robinson 2. I think he's safe. Matt Miazga 3, Obina Wobodo 4, Pavel Buka 5. I think it gets a little bit interesting with Alvaro Barriales, maybe your 6th protected player. He's on loan for now, but I think we need to protect his interests.
You still have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Even if you traded a player, you still have to protect them for some reason. So.
Interesting.
Mm.
So here's a question. So now we're at 6 safe guys. I see Hidebe is number 7, looks safe. Yakubo 8 safe. Roman Salentano 9 safe.
Yep.
DeAndre Yedlin. Are we protecting this guy? Is he somebody that we're just trying to leave him out there to get rid of his large cap hit?
Justin left him unprotected.
I left him. I left unprotected because I mean, apart from a clothing brand, I mean, there's a lot of pieces in that position. So I'm not saying right back. I mean, we saw Orshano was pretty comfortable in that position too. If you're trying to figure out what you're doing with Barriel, if you feel like Barriel is coming back next year, then that's a pretty expensive guy to have sitting on your bench. So that one's kind of one that if the vibe, he's from out west, so I mean that would be a fun trip out west back for him.
You could still offload him, like if you wanted to. There's plenty of teams I think that would trade.
Would take a Yedlin.
Yeah.
So we've protected 9 players. I think there's probably a group of like 6 maybe. And we're not, I don't believe Luca Orshano has to be protected. I could be wrong there. Might be wildly wrong there. He's would be signed in 2025 as an MLS player. Right now he's on loan. I don't know how that all works. So basically we have 9 safe, but I think I have between Yedlin, Sergio Santos, Alvis Powell, Corey Baird, Alec Can, and Yamil Assad. I think maybe you can add Hagelin into that group too. He's out of contract. We'll see what happens. I can't imagine people would go and spend a bunch of money on him.
Time out. You're protecting Sergio Santos. Explain
I'm
that.
saying is a group of these 6 players that could potentially, I think, have an argument to be protected. I think he will be protected. So I listed him in my protected because I don't know why you would exercise that option unless it was like an auto guarantee option, maybe playing time. I think there might have been some argument there between the coaching staff. Kevin Kelsey has an auto trigger, and maybe Sergio Santos had an auto trigger for his option. And what's the cost of either of those over the long haul? So I think Santos actually is going to. I was a little.
He's really expensive.
Yeah, he's
really,
for a bench
really
player.
Yeah,
I leave him open just because I don't think they'll take him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
he has been solid off the bench though. If he is a true 20-minute player, I think he's one of the best in the league.
He's definitely not a 90-minute. He's not a starter that he had to be for a portion of the season.
Yeah,
I think there's something to be said though especially with Kevin Denke coming in and having a more pressing style, I'm very interested to see how Sergio Santos could fit in that, whether that's a guy off the bench or if it's the second guy next to Denke, because that's a matchup nightmare.
Yeah.
And Santos has proven that he can play outside.
Mhm.
All right. Nobody protected Corey Baird. Nobody protected Corey Baird.
Listen, he did fill in as our left wing back when we
Oh my
needed
God.
it. Maybe that's the depth piece we've been looking for. Maybe not.
I loved Corey Baird. I was so excited for him coming out of the preseason. I think he scored like 4
Mhm.
goals.
Yeah.
I'd like to give him more time, but I maybe it's the whole thing playing next to Lucho Costa that screws up people.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a bad pickup for them, but I do think he's a bad pickup at the price he's at, and that's going to be like that's what you want to do when you build your expansion draft list. It isn't just who are they going to take. It's who are they going to take at what price. They have to live with these decisions. They have to live with these contracts they absorb. And granted, I hope they have somebody smarter on their expansion draft than FC Cincinnati had on ours. But as long as they have somebody reasonably looking at these players and pulling the strings, they're going to take the 5 best value players on the board for what their team needs. So you have to make your list as unattractive as possible, and I think Corey Baird makes it a little unattractive.
I think you could put me in San Diego's position, and I would do better than FC Cincinnati did when they started off. Just being honest with you, and that was probably one of the worst expansion. Fair to them, they didn't have very much of a game plan. They had a short runway, but Lord of mercy.
You guys want to put bets on whether Kai Kamara gets drafted again in this expansion draft?
Yes. Love it. Somebody who's been selected in 2 expansion drafts, Alvis Powell. It looks like he's protected by Brian and by Boston, I guess, in our spreadsheet we have here. Boston, do we really think somebody's going to take Alvis Powell?
I think he's a good depth piece, and he fits in a price point that I think I would consider taking him. He still gets regular starting minutes in any team that picks him up. He's not a day one starter, but what are you looking for in your expansion draft? Are you really going to get 5 day one starters? No, you're not. You're going to get 1 maybe, and you're going to get 4 depth pieces for your team. And Alvis Powell fits that. Yeah. So I protect him because I think he's stealable.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he's stealable. I think he's still potentially a starter on a team that is, a new team that's looking for somebody in that back slot. I'm keeping him because we need the depth. I just think we need the depth still on our back line. We saw what happened last year. We needed to rely on him more than we thought we would this season, and I think he performed well. And again, depending on what happens, are we protecting him and DeAndre Yedlin? I am, because I think we need the depth on that side of the field, on the right side there. But yeah, I had a couple left to throw around there, and I wasn't sure who to go for. And Powell was the one that I think we still need to protect. In my 12, he's in there.
Let's be honest. Boston just wants to see one of those Powell rockets go in.
He's not scoring for anybody else but us, man.
Yeah, I'll buy you a jersey, Brian, if Alvis Powell's unprotected and selected. I'll tell you what, I don't see it. I do think somebody, and this is where it's tricky, I think would be attractive to an expansion team would be a guy like Yamil Assad. The thing is, though, is he's a free agent, so there's some.
That's a risky pick.
There's some risk for both FC Cincinnati and for San Diego. Of course, you take 2 senior roster players out with Murphy and Cheeto, so you get a little flexibility to maybe protect Yamil for an extra day or 2. But that's a guy who I think has a lot more value than Alvis Powell personally. And then I guess really finally of this whole group, Alec Can. Justin, I see you have him protected. Why keep him around versus, chancing his, chance to move on and getting some GAM back for him?
I think you can get more. I think they've played the long game. People haven't been desperate enough to make moves on him, but I think you play the long game. Alec Khan is a perfect substitute. You get an injured player, he's a guy that's ready ready with the experience, ready to slot in as the starting goalkeeper anywhere. I really like Paul Walters, and I think we're going to have something with. I think Evan Leroux is one of those players that can kind of, be a curveball, but I think Paul Walters is actually the future. I think you just hold on to Alec Khan and his experience. He's done a great job in the locker room with these guys. I think he's one of the guys that Paul Rogers really harps on as being one of the solid leaders on this team. He's a guy I would keep just for the locker room, to be honest with you, and then sit on his investment. He's one of those guys that is going to be seriously coveted. There just wasn't that need in the market this year.
All right, guys. Again, kind of what we were saying is that if a piece from FC Cincinnati is selected, FC Cincinnati would receive $50,000 in GAM, which it could be helpful with how tight our roster budget is right now.
Bad deal.
Such a bad. Well, here's the thing, though. You have to remember that when there's allocation seasons, each team gets an allocation bonus. So it's just a cherry on top of that bonus. I think on our roster guide, I might have put like $250,000 extra GAM. I don't know how much it actually is. Maybe it's like an extra, how much 150,000 I think is what you have to pay to have a third DP. So we'll see what happens. But
so if I'm understanding this correctly, if a player gets picked up in the expansion draft, we get the 50,000 GAM, but we also save their salary.
Yeah,
correct.
If they're under contract, yeah,
right. Okay.
Which is why Santos leaving is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of pieces and parts to think about in terms of our overall roster construction and their roster construction. Of course, San Diego gets a boatload of GAM this first year. As I mentioned 50,000 times on the show, I think it's better to spend GAM on getting players versus buying down salary. So I'd be shocked if they go out and get Santos.
And apparently they're not drafting anybody from Columbus because they made some side deal.
Dude, we have like 3 future international draft picks or 3 international players right now under contract, I think. So, man, we could have definitely parted ways with one of those spots, but we'll see what happens with these U22s and the potential DP coming in. All right, guys, let's transition out of the roster build. Real quick, thank you to another one of our sponsors, Beyond Exercise. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy company and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Also, you can tweet us at Cincy Soccer Talk, CINCY Soccer Talk, or email us at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. Justin Blair is copied on all those emails. So if you want to spam him, that is feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com.
I am working like an octopus in a soup kitchen, man. This is crazy. It's like the amount of feedback we've gotten recently, and we've put out our fillers for some new people on the staff, and we have a great group coming in. I can't wait to introduce all of them to you guys. Some of them have already jumped in. I know that Cam put out a great article today covering this trade deal. I mean, I'm so excited about the direction that our writing staff is going in the future, and we're upping our game on social media a little bit. We got somebody that understands Instagram, because I sure as heck don't.
Is that your brother, Brian?
No.
Jay over there,
Okay.
and so is Brandon Wolf. The guy that does. If you guys haven't seen Brandon Wolf's live game reactions for those road matches and post games, they're fantastic. They're on CST YouTube. Check them out sometime.
All I'm saying is the CST Slack page got like an average of like 10 years younger across the board. So
Yes,
and way more active.
It's wild. I know. It's been cool. Now, very excited to have this group of guys. And as I kind of mentioned to Justin offhand, I think they're a very knowledgeable staff. Give them time to breathe, guys. If you're listening to the show or if you're reading their stories, it takes time to get things rolling. But I'm very excited to have a great group of guys and gals. So Also, I think I mentioned if hopefully here in the next couple weeks we might have an NWSL news. So if you want to be involved with NWSL, please also blow up Justin Blair at feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com.
Keep them coming, man. We love it. This is by the fans for the fans, man.
Yes.
This is everyone working together, pulling the ship together.
Speaking of more soccer, we're talking about the FIFA Club World Cup 2025.
Ooh.
As you know, Cincinnati is going to be a host city. And boy, oh boy, did we get some pretty juicy matchups and some pretty big names coming to the Queen City in TQL Stadium this upcoming June. Starting, I guess it's the second overall match in the tournament. Sunday, June 15th, noon. Bayern Munich versus Auckland City FC of New Zealand, not Australia's A-League. My apologies. We are having the general manager of Auckland City on the show shortly. We're going to have them talk about their exploits and how they're going to stack up to the Bavarian Giants. So Bayern Munich, game 1. Game 2, Wednesday, June 18th. Club Pachuca of Liga MX, and they call them FC Salzburg. Let's be real. It's Red Bull Salzburg of the Austrian Bundesliga. Go check out. I think there's some pretty great Twitter threads on how the heck an Australian Bundesliga team got into this tournament. It was like the quintessential by default scenario, but we're very excited to have them. They are a huge brand in global football. Third match at TQL Stadium, Saturday, June 21st at noon. I'm actually very excited about this team. South African club Mamelodi Sundowns, one of the largest supporters bases in Africa. The South African club, South African champions, will take on the Yellow Wall Borussia Dortmund. There's a lot of ties between that club, or at least what FC Cincinnati really wanted the Bailey to be or look like. So it's very excited to have them in town. And then they will stay in town for their final match Wednesday, June 25th at 3 p.m. Dortmund versus Korea's Ulsan HDFC. Formerly, I think they were the Hyundai Ulsan. So if you might have heard that name, Korean Giants. That'll be a very exciting game as well. Justin, man, you saw these juicy matchups. I think these are probably the best teams coming into any MLS soccer specific stadiums. What are you most excited for? Which game? Is it a game? Is it a club? What are you jacked up to see in TQL?
I'm excited just to soak in the experience. I'm hoping that a lot of tourists come into town. I think we really lucked out. I know a lot of groups are, maybe some more household names, right? I mean, Bayern and Dortmund are definitely nothing to shake a stick at. But what I'm most excited about is we got, a representative from Asia, Oceania, and from Africa. So I'm hoping that some fans will come in. But I know I think you put it out in the airways, Brian, that I know there's going to be a lot of soccer-loving fans here in town that would be happy to be satellite supporters for those matches.
So, I was just going to say, Brian's the new president of the newest satellite supporters group for Auckland City FC. How nice are you, Brian?
Yeah, yeah. I just named that apparently.
You were drafted.
Yeah.
What do you know about New Zealand? Let's start there.
It's close to Australia.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's
it's green and pretty.
There you go. Very pretty area. No, I'm excited to see. I think bringing the German clubs to the city of Cincinnati was huge. I think that was a big deal. I think they knew what they were doing with that one. And so the fact that Dortmund has 2 matches there is pretty exciting to me. I think if I got a text from a friend right as they announced it, I hadn't seen the stadium had been chosen yet, the city had been chosen yet, and just got a text that said road trip. And I was like, what do you mean? And he sends me the message with that. So yeah, I think I'd be excited to see one of the Dortmund matches coming up here at the end of the summer or end of the tournament there.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that said we weren't going to get anything, but we're the smallest stadium in the Club World Cup, so we weren't going to get anything but the smallest teams. And that definitely was not true. One bit. There is going to be a war over some of these tickets between outside fans, German fans, Cincinnati fans, and then every other. Cincinnati is a big geographic region. We connect to we're 5 hours away from like 7 major cities. So there'll be a ton of people that are trying to get in here from St. Louis and Nashville and Detroit and everywhere else. So it's gonna be a hot ticket. And if you are really wanting these tickets, one, dig deep in that bank account now. I don't think they're gonna be cheap. And two, make sure you're ready at 10 o'clock next week when these suckers go on sale. You're going to have to be on FIFA's website quick. Do not wait for a lunch break to try to cash in. You can get these tickets.
Yeah, just find your local Taylor Swift aficionado that can get those tickets really fast and just get in there.
Oh my gosh. I think you're going to have fan supporters from all the different supporters groups for those German teams fight over tickets here. I think that's going to be wild. Randomly woke up at 3 a.m. Saturday morning and caught wind of that. I actually bought a hotel room at the Symphony for $200 that night, and I seen since then all the hotels that Saturday for that Bayern game are like $1,000 now. So pretty exciting. Yeah. So hopefully going to be there. I just want to experience the atmosphere around the stadiums for those matches. And even that, the Pachuca versus Salzburg match, I think that actually might be the best match of two similar level teams. I guess, you have the CONCACAF champion versus still a very, very good top 20 European club. So yeah, I can't wait to see these matches. I know there's been a lot of, hemming and hawing about, the players and adding more time. And I think that is a real concern. Maybe we might not see Harry Kane for the first, 75 minutes of the match, but I do think that there's going to be a big desire to win this tournament. I think there's news that just came out that FIFA inked like a $1 billion TV deal through DAZN, subsidized by the Saudi Arabian government and Aramco and all that stuff. But I think there's going to be some big star power in this tournament. Very excited to see how that all plays out. So as kind of what Boston said, tickets live Thursday, December 19th, 10 a.m. Eastern. Get on there, FIFA.com/tickets.
Boss, is your phone just on auto dial now? Like starting now? It's just gonna, so you're the first one in regardless.
Well, I'll get a ticket. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Some MLS news. Actually, we had some breaking news come on the air or come online as we were on the air this evening. This is something that I put on our roundtable this past week. If you didn't get to check it out for our half-day trade window, is I really was hoping for teams that would be able to push out cash purchases for players. And of course, that didn't happen today. But Tom Bogart is reporting that is now up for, I guess, vote with the league. So I'm very excited to see how that plays out. I know it might be a little premature to go dive down that rabbit hole right now, but I just, if you go read our roundtable and you can see why I think the value of that could just be dramatically important for the league.
Yeah.
A couple other pieces of news before we get out of here. Lucho Acosta, best 11 3 years in a row. I think they'd be celebrated a little bit differently if things weren't as they were right now. LA Galaxy beat the New York Red Bulls. Congratulations to Johnny Nelson for handling the New York Red Bulls, former FC Cincinnati player, now MLS Cup champion. Glad that LA Galaxy at least could claim to be the league champion against New York Red Bulls. I hate rooting against teams, but boy, oh boy, I think you saw my opinions on social media. I just did not think essentially a 500 team could win the title.
Once someone said Frankie Amaya would get a ring, I was against him.
Good man, Boston. Leo Messi, MVP, whatever.
Did you see that coming? I don't know.
Yeah. It is what it is, right? I think Suarez got robbed. Cucho Hernandez as well, but I'm never going to let Columbus have that glory.
Yeah.
Other pieces of news real quick. Tuesday, CONCACAF Champions Cup draw. So check that out, 7 p.m. I think on Fox Sports, FS1 or FS2, one of those.
You can watch it on YouTube if you want to.
Okay.
Works. Yeah.
Some updates with the potentially new Leagues Cup. If you go check out Don Garber, had a lot of news coming out with his State of the League address. Potentially a new Leagues Cup format, 18 versus 18 tournament with this year. And then I think they said they're going to take off 2026, but tying into 2027, a new winter schedule seems likely with a Leagues Cup 2.0. So check out all that stuff from Don Garber's State of the League. Guys, final thoughts. I'm going to go to start with Justin. You have any final thoughts before we wrap up this evening?
Yeah, go into another season here. I know this is you get a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving parts, and I know the expansion draft's yet to happen and our waivers are yet to happen. But let's just remember, we're running a business here, FC Cincinnati, and sometimes you have to part ways, and sometimes that's the best for both parties. So let's just try to embrace what players have brought to our team. Like Ian Murphy helped us get a supporter shield in a much earlier state than he probably should have ever been on the field. But let's just embrace what we have with FC Cincinnati players and congratulate and hope for the best for their future and for our future.
Awesome. Don't get attached to FCC players like you do the Frisch's Big Boy. You never know when it goes away. Brian Beanbach.
Yeah, I'm glad we have a lot to talk about still in this off season already. What'd you say? We're at 396. We're heading close to 400 episodes of CST, heading into our 10th season. So I'm excited about what's coming. We talked about some of the young writers that are coming on the team. I'm just excited about what the future holds for CST, and the fact that, again, we've got a lot to talk about still in this off season. To get us up to our 400th episode would be a lot of fun to get to before we hit that season number 10.
Boston, you going to be able to make it to episode 400, my man?
Well, I don't see why not. But man, I'm dying for some NWSL news, Brian. I'm like a fat boy waiting outside a cheeseburger joint, hoping for somebody to drop me just a little bit of patty. This league needs to hurry up and just announce Cincinnati already. I want to just run down and buy my season tickets.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I agree. I'm very excited for NWSL. I just can't believe it hasn't been made yet, unless they're just extorting the hell out of our ownership group, which, I mean,
we're in that stage of the game.
Man,
yep.
It's unreal though. Like, just look at the issues that Boston's having right now. Like, they can't figure out their stadium situation. The bill of the stadium came out this week, is double their initial estimates.
Was it on an Indian burial ground or something like that?
We are an absolute home run.
Home run.
Unless you just want an extra pile of money. And
that's it.
Yeah. And at this point, I want it to happen so bad. I want to say, what's another $10 million? But, at the end of the day, too, it's a business. And, also, I think there's a happy medium where, we get charged more or lesser tickets. And, I think it's just such a no-brainer, kind of what you said, Boston. I guess my final thoughts are there's still a lot to happen here in FC Cincinnati land. I think there's probably another 4 or 5 new players that you're going to be bringing in. I really, from what we're hearing, I really think there's the ability that FC Cincinnati is still going to make some big splashes out there. I'd love to see Alvaro Barrial back in. I think there's some movement here with the allocation money to make some things happen that necessarily weren't available a week or two ago. So I think Chris Albright's going to shake and bake and make some things happen. Already, being able to go out and get $1 million for these 2 players, I think is maybe on the low side, but I don't think that far outside of the fair value discussion. So, and he made those moves early to free us up to make some key acquisitions. So very excited. Trust Chris Albright right now, and looking forward to a 2025 season. Couple episodes left for me. I'll see if we can get to episode 400, but I appreciate everybody here listening to us, downloading us. Please share, rate, subscribe, leave us a review on social media and on Apple, Spotify, everything. And we appreciate your help, guys. Look forward to seeing you, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully with some more NWSL news. Have a good one.